Have you ever wondered why some marriages seem to thrive for decades, while other marriages seem to crumble or even fail within a couple of years? I mean, you ever wonder why some marriages last for a lifetime and some marriages barely last for a month? We're going to talk about that and much more here on this episode of Couples Pursuit.
Couples Pursuit.
Hello, this is Vincent
And Valerie
Woodard. And on this episode of Couples Pursuit,
we're going to talk about how to build a godly marriage to last.
Amen. Amen. And we thank you so much for joining us here on Couples Pursue. Our goal here is to give you the biblical principles to not only to pursue, but to maintain a successful marriage. So look, if you're new to our channel, we'd like to say welcome. And if you're returning, we'd like to say welcome back. Hey, do us a favor. Hit that like button, hit that share button, and share this video with someone you think might be interested, someone that you know. So, babe, this topic is a deep one. A deep one. Look, what's your thoughts
about how to build a godly marriage?
How to build a godly marriage, yeah.
Well,
and why should we know how to build one from the onset?
Well, I think the answer to that question is first you have to consider whether or not God is important to you in your life. And the reason why, you might be wondering why a godly marriage, what does that have to do with anything? Well, we teach from biblical principles. And so, of course, this platform is built on godly principles, but not everyone who gets married realizes or agrees with the fact that marriage is God's idea, that it's his institution. And just like you would take a Volvo to a Volvo dealership, you take a Mercedes to a Benz dealership, you take Tesla to Tesla, you take God's property, God's creation back to him. Yeah. And so marriage was built by him. In the book of Genesis, it began. And in the book of Revelation, Jesus Christ, the bridegroom will come back for the bride, which is the church. Yeah. And so all throughout the word, there's talk about marriage and there's a way that it should be done. That's true. And successfully done is by his principles.
That's so true. That's so true. And I love the fact that you brought up the car analogy because
I thought you might like that.
Well, a lot of times, so marriage, we get married, we say we old enough to marry. Or do we want to do, and then we just have to go pay a fee to get a marriage license, then find somebody to marry us, and we get married. Yeah. But for so many other serious things in your life, you're required to learn something about whatever it is you're jumping into. For a driver's license, you require to go through driver's ed and driving test, and then show somebody that you can do it. But that's a driving test. And even with your job, you have to go for an interview. If it's
for a weapon,
you have to go through a class. If it was a specialized job, you might have to get some certification or training. Maybe even go to college, get some degrees. It's like we care about so many other things that I'm not gonna say that's not that important. Right. But it's your marriage is like one of the most important things that you can ever do. When you say I want to marry someone, that's one of the most important things. And a lot of us don't get instruction before we do it.
Yeah, it's a huge decision.
Yeah, we don't learn anything more about it. You might have talked to a friend or two. You might have talked with your pastor, some pre-marriage counseling. Not knocking that because that's always good. But we don't learn enough about what does it mean to actually. What are we doing? What are we doing when we get married? When I say I do, what am I doing to?
It's so true because we talked about this before, but we marry because we feel we want to keep feeling the feeling that we're feeling. We want to keep feeling the feeling that we're feeling for a lifetime. Yeah. But we all know that situations change, circumstances change. Each person is different. And if you spend enough time around them, you're going to see every facet, every emotion. And then you have to still be able to love outside of feeling those feelings, because a lot of the emotions that we feel are not based on love.
That's good.
They're based on satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And love is different from satisfaction, because love endures when you're not satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Love endures when you're not pleased, when you're not happy, when you're not, having your way, when you can't, even if you want to, when you can't do the things that would make the other person happy, or vice versa. Love endures all of that.
That is good. That is so good. That's so good, because I titled, my thumbnail for this video was why most marriages fail.
Mm-hmm.
And, you hear the stats, 50% of marriages fail. And it's really, those numbers, whatever you want to say, is the lower, it's the higher, but it's in a ballpark of, it's a lot of unsuccessful marriages out there. And then the people that stay married, the percentage is sometimes higher for unhappy marriages.
Yes.
Like it's just so many things that go into the fact that, we can use work, we can use help. And that's why we started Couples Pursuit, because we were those people that say we need help, we needed help. And we went to counseling, and we went through our own trials and figuring some stuff out. And we realized that, the Bible speaks so much about how marriage is supposed to go. Not everybody in the Bible do marriage the way that God initially planned it. Well, no. But he made it in Genesis 2:24, and that's where we base everything from Couples Pursuit. We base it off of it's so many scriptures, but this one pivotal scripture, actually two, Genesis 2:24 and 25, and it's familiar. But listen, it says, "For this is why a man will leave his father and mother." And in the CSB version it says to bonds with his wife. Some other versions mean to cleave or to pursue his wife. And the two shall become one flesh. They should become one. And then 25, I think it said 25, not I think it says 25 says that they were both naked and unashamed. That scripture right there is like, okay, for the man leaves his mother and father and cleaves and bonds with his wife, that the process, the principle, the promise is that they shall become one flesh. A lot of people fight that process of becoming one flesh. So we're going to talk to you tonight about what we found that has worked, not only for us, but it's worked to.
But it works.
It works. The couples that we've counseled, that we shared this with, and they was like, wow, I've never really quite looked at it like that. So we're gonna give you five principles for you to grow on. Hopefully, this will help your marriage. You ready, babe?
I'm ready.
All right. So one is your marriage is a covenant, not just a contract.
Yes.
What
does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
A covenant, I love how we learn in the Bible that when God formed Eve and he took the rib out of Adam and he took it and formed the woman and he brought the woman to Adam, the first thing that Adam said, he didn't say, wow, God, that was good. You know how I like them. I like what you did right there.
Yeah.
He didn't say that. He said, the first thing he said, now this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. He's recognizing that his spouse's well-being is just as important. It's like she's part of him.
Yeah.
It's just as important as he is. He made a covenant with the first thing he did was made a covenant with his wife. And said, whatever, you're bone of my bone, your flesh of my flesh, you're that important to me. And so now, and from that, you don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to harm yourself. Most people don't want to, bring, hurt and disgrace and disappointment to their own selves. So why do we do that to our spouse? Yeah. So the fact that your marriage is a covenant, it's saying that this person's well-being is just as important as yours. You made a covenant to your spouse unto God.
And what is the covenant? It's a bond.
Yes.
And covenant was sealed with blood. In the word, it was sealed with blood because life equals the blood. There's life in the blood. And we're not talking about some pagan ritualistic sacrifices or anything like that. Blood is symbolic to God. It's significant to God.
Yeah.
And for those of us who believe in Jesus Christ, it is by his blood, the shedding of his blood, that we become one.
That's right.
With him. And so instead of there being animal sacrifices and all of those things anymore to atone or to pay for sin, he paid for that sin. He covered that sin. And so that was such a huge undertaking for us. And when God put Adam and Eve in the garden, when you hear about in the word where people come together and they get married, they say they knew one another, and they talk about that knowing means the intimacy, and in intimacy there's the breaking of the hymen, the woman's hymen, when she's a virgin, and that's a tiny portion of the woman's female reproductive parts that is broken when the intimacy occurs, and there is a shedding of the blood. There is a covenant between man and woman. When they become married, they really become one, and God no longer sees you as just you. Yes, he sees you individually, but when you make that bond, he sees you as husband and wife.
Yes.
He sees you as one, and the two shall become one. It is inevitable. And you can be one and not be united, or you can be united and not be one, rather, because of the refusing to follow these principles we're going to talk about tonight. And it's okay if you didn't know or you don't know. Now we're going to give you the information, because these principles, if you treat your spouse in this way, if you follow these principles, then your marriage is going to transform. It's going to transition. It's like gravity. If I took a ball and rolled it off a cliff, it's going to fall to the ground. If you do this, it's going to happen.
Exactly. It's a principle. Yeah. And that even works. I hear some people talking like, you don't know my spouse. You don't know what they've done. You don't know what they like. This. Right. Look, God gave us each a charge to do. He's never contingent on if the other person does something, then you can do. We're not talking about divorce and all those things. We're talking about what can you do to help your marriage? What can you do personally to increase the chances of having a successful marriage? What can you do?
Because if you change, they are going to respond to that change. Yeah. And the responding, it could be negative, as in they don't do anything differently, or they don't want the marriage, or because sometimes people, they're dealing with all different types of struggles, and it would be nice if we could say everybody ends up back together. It has to be, their choice. Yes. And your choice. But what we're telling you is this: if you do what you're supposed to do, you increase the chances of your marriage coming back together. Even the word says, if they leave, you don't force them to come back. But the sanctified wife sanctifies the husband, and vice versa. And sanctifying just means setting apart. So what we want to encourage you to set yourself apart from the way people normally do things. That's true. And that normal is the contract. In the beginning, he said, your marriage is a covenant, not a contract. A contract is you do your part, then I'll do my part. Yep, 50-50. In a covenant, I'll do my part until death do us part.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Exactly. And that leads us to, number two. Our second principle is to commit to weathering the storm together. Like do your part. I'm committed. I'm here. It's when we say the marriage vows, they went something like this. So I, whatever your name is, take so-and-so, whatever the spouse's name is. And you said these words, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, and in sickness and in health. You probably said a couple of other things. Love and to cherish. To love and to cherish from now to this day forward. So God help me. Some in that phrase right there. But the commitment is addressing that for better or for worse. Because you said I. Yeah. It's just like you was in the courtroom. You was like, I. this is what I pledge, or this is what all of my will, my ability is that I take this person for better, to go through. I agree to go through for better or for worse. That's the committing to weathering the storm together. And is it easy? It's a storm.
No.
It gets rocky. It gets tumultuous. It gets all those things. Sometimes you want to be like, whoa, I don't know if we're going to make it.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying right now, before the storm comes, that you commit to weathering the storms. Like, actually think about, you know what? We went through some bad times. We're in a nice, calm sea area right now, but there could be some storms ahead. Are you committed? That's our first principle too.
It is, and you would think that commitment comes before the covenant, like you commit to each other and then you get married. Well, you are engaged, or you're betrothed, or you become fiancés, and you make, the promise. We want to get married. Some people do a promise ring. That's like, it's a down payment on, I want to get married someday. I want to work towards this, right? It's not the wedding ring, but you're heading in that direction. But you would be surprised how many times people find out they're not committed after they get married. After the fact. When everything that was said during the vows, when the things that were brought up during counseling, they're really faced with. The problem is they never thought they would be faced with it. They thought, oh, well, we just say the words. This is what you do when you get married. We're happy. Let's just do it. Okay. Yes. Yeah. All of that. I agree. I'll do it. Love and to cherish, honor, obey, all those things.
I got you. Yeah, we got it. We went through
honeymoon.
Let's
go to the.
We went through that time that we didn't agree on the Netflix show, and we had a disagreement.
Yeah, we good. We talked about it.
We're past it.
Yeah,
we're ready.
And then what happens when sickness comes? What happens when finances are low? What happens when one spouse's job closes down, or if someone's unhealed brokenness comes up, and it will come up. The more you spend time together, when you argue, you're not really arguing about, most of the time what you're arguing about how you feel about it. And how you feel about what's happened is because of what has happened to each of you individually in the past. And it may make one feel disrespected. It might cause one to feel afraid or uncertain. And then defense mode goes on. Then you start putting on armor, and you push away from each other instead of being committed. And when you're committed, you draw close. You draw close to one another, and that leads to
number 3 is communicate with honesty and grace.
Yeah.
And what do you mean by that? Well, some people say we don't never talk, or he don't never talk to me. Well, we talk. I believe y'all talk to one either. Y'all communicate, but y'all don't communicate to each other effectively. You don't communicate with honesty and grace. Sometimes we can communicate out of disdain or
anger,
being passive aggressive, or criticizing each other. I mean, you're talking, but you're not talking to edify the other person. We're talking either to snap back, or we're talking either to get somebody to be quiet. And that was my MO. It's like I don't like to talk about my feelings, and my wife would like to know how I'm feeling. Sometimes I just don't know. So there lies, I don't want to talk. And we went through this whole cycle of me just want to shut down. And my wife was like, I know enough about marriage to know that if you don't talk about your feelings, that can't be good.
It's gonna be a problem.
It's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn. And I had to learn. I'm not saying I came back a week later. No, I had to learn.
It took time
to communicate with honesty and grace. It was a baby. It was hard for me at first, because I was thinking people are like this. This is how people are. People don't talk to each other about mushy stuff when they're feeling low and frustrated and upset. And that's just how people do. They read the paper, and they just leave the house when they're gone, might say bye. I see that on TV. That's how they do.
Yeah, you just kind of like a turtle. You go into your shell. I'm still here with you, but I'm in my feelings. Yeah. And we've come to use that as an excuse. Well, I'm just in my feelings. Well, get out.
Get out your feelings.
Get out of your feelings. And how do you do that? You express it. Just think about a little child. You know, if they're pouting or they're crying, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? You want to find out what's wrong with them. Now, some people just, you know, don't care and just like, shut up, stop crying. Yeah. But that doesn't solve the problem. Find out what the problem is. Address the issue. If they're overreacting, then you address the overreacting. If it's a legitimate issue, you address the issue. And then the next time that situation comes up, you don't have the meltdown. You don't have the tantrum. You don't have the fear. You can teach them how to walk through it. Now, is your spouse a child? No, I'm not saying that, but to be completely honest, many times the issues that are not worked out between husband and wife are because issues were not worked out as children.
That's true.
Or you saw how adults either handled it poorly or didn't handle it at all. And so you just, we resort to, this is how I am. This is how I grew up. Well, that doesn't mean that this is how we should be or how we should continue to go forward. When we come together as husband and wife, there needs to be a covenant that this joining together is between us and God. Then there needs to be a commitment that we're not going to run from it. And then there needs to further be a commitment to communicating about whatever comes up.
That is so true. That is so true. We're giving you game here. I'm trying. Look, these took us years. I'm about to say these 12, but we probably didn't say this is what we're doing until, you know, we actually say, you know, what is couples pursuit? What is couples pursuit going to be built on? Going to be based on? And it was like so many other therapy models that you could use or whatever. We was like, nah. Let's go deep. What does the Bible say? Yeah. You know, about marriage and what's God's ideal, what's his plan, his purpose for marriage. And that's what we was like, that's it. Let's go back to the beginning. Yeah. And so we giving you what we've based our model. Whatever you come to us for counseling, whatever you come to us for any kind of therapy session, we based this, everything we based on. Now we give you some real practicals. We tell you, some things you can use, some effective communication techniques. We tell you some conflict resolution techniques that you can use. That leads us to our fourth one, to connect intentionally in all areas of life. Your connection, your intimacy with each other is so crucial. Think about it. That's my fourth principle. That's my segue into that. It's connection. Your if you're a woman, your man, your husband, your hips, your body, your affection is the only thing. If he's a godly man, if he's just trying to live right, it's the only thing that he has as far as intimacy in this world. Is you. And when y'all deny each other, same thing with him, what you want from him, if y'all deny each other legally, he's not getting it from anywhere else. He's not supposed to be getting it from anywhere else. And what happens when somebody's not connected? They disconnect. That's when a marriage is not staying connected, they eventually disconnect from one another. And if you're going to, when we disconnect, you're going to rob the other person of that affection, of that intimacy, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. That's what we're doing.
Recreationally.
Yes.
Yeah, having fun.
I love hanging out with my wife.
Yeah.
Y'all see us, you see us taking videos and pictures and going to concerts and movies and shows, and I just like hanging out with her. That part wasn't a chore because she crazy, y'all. She's funny. She's funny.
Me?
Yeah, but I'm just
a serious kind of girl. I don't know what you're talking about.
But I'm just saying. But it's still work. It's still work in the sense, not like it's labor or laborious. It's work in the sense like I want to continue to do it.
Yeah.
Like Okay, date night coming up. I want to see how much fun what can we
got
do?
One coming up.
Yeah, how much? What can we do? And that's the connection part. We're staying connected. I want to stay connected.
Yeah, and you know what? When you communicate, that it's an automatic. I like to say,
communication.
Communication is the forerunner to connection.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you communicate, like for instance, if my husband has an issue, rather than him going to, let's say he played golf and he doesn't, if going to play golf for 5 or 6 hours, right? And then coming back and taking a shower and just going to bed.
Yeah.
And never talking to me about whatever has happened with him. Now he's gotten some relief because he's distracted himself with an activity, but he's having all of these emotions that he's not sharing with me, which means that I cannot help him through it. And if I'm not aware of it, then if I am aware of it, then perhaps there's something that I can do. If I'm aware of it, perhaps there's something that, you know, there's comfort that he can receive from me. But if he is ashamed or not comfortable with being vulnerable, with saying, I'm hurt, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm afraid, I'm fill in the blank with the person that he can be physically intimate with, that's kind of backwards.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want to be physically intimate with someone that I couldn't tell all those things to. And just imagine he does that year after year after year, and he lets all that stuff build up in his heart. And he finds something to do to run away from every situation. Well, while in his running away from the situation, he's also going away from me.
Yeah. And that's where you get into those issues where you have, it starts out what you think is small with that person that you like somebody else's picture, you like the comment, you're Instagramming them, you're messaging another person of another's sex, and then next thing you know, you're having longer conversations, and then you get on the phone sometimes. Sometimes people
going out to get something to eat.
It's running to those because you're feeling like you can't share, because you have the feelings, and you're going to share them. Whether you share them, you know, externally, like you might go play golf 5 hours, or you go sneak off and do lunch with somebody you know your wife wouldn't approve of, you know your spouse wouldn't approve of. The work wives and work husband situations, you know, it's like they're initially instinctively want to connect with people.
Right.
And not everybody wants to have a big circle around them, but people do not want to feel like they're alone in this world. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And so when I can't have that connection with my spouse, unfortunately, sometimes
something will take its and sometimes that something is inanimate. It you know, it could be golf, it could be alcohol, it could be just taking the edge off, it could be recreational drugs. I don't know what that is. That's just like, why is it fun to be high? I don't know. It could also be pornography. It could be I don't know if they'll put me in Facebook jail for saying this, but it could be masturbation. It could be it could be it could be being a workaholic.
Yeah.
It could be any number of things. And especially if it's something that's not harmful, but it's a distraction, like, well, I'm just working, I'm just playing basketball, I don't do anything else, I don't go anywhere else. But are you giving that same effort to connecting with your spouse, your life partner, the person that you joined together with to grow with? Why wouldn't you give attention? Why would you marry someone you don't want to spend time with?
Wow. My goodness.
And if the time that you spend with them is difficult, then you got to double back to the communication. What's going on? Yeah. Well, she always complaining. Why is she always complaining?
Why is she always
What's going on? Have you talked to her? Well, he don't talk to me. Well, why doesn't he talk to you? Have you investigated that? Not nagged him about it, but have you investigated it? Have you prayed about it? Have you prayed for them? You know, have you become closer? Because once my husband knew he could trust me with anything, he trusted me with everything.
Yeah. And I mean, men, whoa, I'm trying to tell you, that's a load that you don't want to carry throughout your marriage when it's that thing, it's that issue, that's something that's unspoken for you that keeps coming up, and you don't want to tell your spouse, you don't want to tell your wife about it. And so it's always there. It's like trying to hug your wife with a boulder in between you. Wow. You know, it's like, it's always there. And when I'm able to tell my wife just all those intimate, all those things, even from way back when in the past that you might not even think they're showing its face now. And you can tell your wife those things and just share. Like, I know you might not say, well, I can't talk to my wife about that. That's why we're giving you this game right here. That's why we're giving you these 5 biblical principles. So you can work your way to saying, baby, can I talk to you?
Yeah, I want to share something. I want to share something with you because, you know, I said it before, but, you know, we are eager to share our beds before we share our hearts. And then we hide our emotions from our spouses, and we only do the flowery things like, you know, it's a holiday, it's our anniversary, or if you want the intimacy, you know, check out, you know, this is kind of off the cuff, but check out the way you approach intimacy with your wife or with your husband. Is it a cat and mouse kind of thing? Is it a rough kind of, you know, I want it kind of thing? Or is there communication and connection all throughout? And then you come together and it just kind of happens naturally. Do you expect your spouse to be intimate with you when you are, when you've been angry with them, or when you've been rough or abrasive with them? Do you deny your spouse intimacy when you don't get your way? Like, love doesn't do that. And
while we're here, like, so I had talked to a man, and I'm telling him, he's talking about intimacy issues, and I said, so are you like trying to come on to your wife, or like trying to get your wife in the mood the way like you would want to be getting in the mood? Like, you treating her like she's you. You know, you thinking you don't need this warm up, you don't need this foreplay, and so you don't understand why she needs it, and therefore you're not going to do it, and then you're wondering why you don't.
Why she doesn't want to?
Why she don't want to? Yeah, because it's like you maybe heard the 5 love languages, like you understand the way people talk. Well, I guess I'm thinking it's probably should be some 5 love making and getting in the mood language. You know, because
5 approaches to love making, or more. I mean, it could be many, but yeah, you. I mean, it's like men love their. I used a automotive analogy before, but women like cars, but men tend to love cars, the motor, the sound of it. They talk about the cylinders and all these things, the speeds, and you know, if it's automatic or it's, you know, what's the other one? Automatic or manual. They talk about those different things. And if you have a really nice car, if a man who loves his car, he is out there rubbing that car down, he's putting that turtle wax on there, or taking it through the car wash every now and then. He's not cranking it up and then just pulling out the driveway. He's gentle with that thing. Men name their cars, women with female names. I know a friend now, he's like on Facebook. Hey, Will. He was on Facebook like, I got a new car. What should I name her? It was like Ruby or something else. And everybody, well, I voted for Ruby. But named after a woman because it draws an emotion from them. It draws something. And most of the time, unless it's a motorcycle, men tend to, you know, think of motorcycles as an extension of themselves sometimes. But the car, it's like the gentleness, the way you treat that car, the way you wax that car and rub that car down and wash her and do all these different things. Do that with your wife. Bam. And if she's not emotional and she doesn't want all that, do what she likes. Whatever she likes.
We just help somebody. Baby.
Don't just jump right into it, because it takes time for us to warm up. You know? And so we don't want to be treated like a piece of meat. And believe it or not, men don't always like to be treated like a piece of meat. Sometimes they, you know, are in the mood and it's like, woo, I just really feel it, and let's just go for it. And you can agree on that. Sometimes I feel like that. Yeah,
sometimes you know, it's like your mind might be willing, but the body be like, hey, bro,
Okay, but tomorrow, right? On either end, but we agree. And my husband never wants me if I don't feel like it.
That's right.
Like, he doesn't want to force me to do it. And it's not, you don't have a problem with that, fortunately, but it's never, he never wants to feel like I'm just doing it because he wants me to do it.
We know how important connection is. We going around this, I ain't say going around a circle. It's just so many ways that you can approach the fact that connection is that important. And it's so important that we should find our way back, or find out where they're, not just leave off the trail and go somewhere else, because
it should be where we live.
It should always be staying connected. And we can go so much more. We could talk about some other ways that you can learn about connection. But I want to get to our fifth one. Our fifth one is so when all things are working or not working, one of the things that you can address is to calibrate your marriage regularly. That's number 5, is to calibrate your marriage regularly. So we're saying all of this, and now in your mind, hopefully you're saying, okay, this is where I think I want to see my marriage. This is where I want my marriage to go. This is the way I want my marriage to be based on covenant. I want my marriage to be based on a commitment, a trust factor with each other, staying connected for better or for worse. I want our marriage to have effective communication, to always being able to communicate with each other with honesty and grace. I want to stay connected. I know my body might not always be willing, but I still want to stay connected. And if it's some doctor, I can go to the doctor and find out if there are other ways that we can help each other. I know connection is important. I hear you, Vince. So now you see where you want your marriage to be. Now we want to calibrate. Calibrate is like adjusting the car analogy, sticking with that, is when your car is the tune up, or is out of line, or all those things. When something is not working right, you get it adjusted. Same thing with your marriage. Is to keep your marriage calibrated. This is where we want to go. So when things happen, like now we're not speaking to each other for weeks or months, and now we're just we
never got over getting upset about things.
Now we're just leaving out the door without speaking to each other. Now we're not touching. We're not even looking each other in the eye. Now we don't even go to church together. Now we don't even go out to get. It's like, hold on, we're out of spec. We're out of tolerance.
Yep,
we're out of alignment. Baby, I think we need to have a conversation. So we need to calibrate because I think we both agree that this is not where we want our marriage to go.
And don't just become satisfied with it's just the way it is. We live right like roommates. She do her and I do me. I saw someone like on the street in one of these videos on one of the social media platforms, and they asked the woman how long she had been married, and she said 38 years, and she was like, and they were asking her if she was happily married. She said yes, and it's like, what makes a happy marriage? And she said living in separate homes. They live in 2 different houses. They have decided to not be connected in that way, and she's like encouraging, this is the best thing. It is not.
I think, and if I'm thinking about the same one, they eventually got an apartment together, or
no, that was it.
Okay.
No, it was just the woman, and she was kind of caught off guard, about being happily married, and it was like, happy because they live in separate homes, and it's like they've just resolved not to resolve. So
we did basically one of these 5 right here, the one that we couldn't address, or we didn't see a resolution to. We just dropped that one out, basically, because that's what happens in a marriage. Is that like commitment? We can't commit to each other, so we're gonna bring in the third person, right?
I'm just live by myself since I can't make myself. I'm not committed to communicating with you. And staying connected with you. So I'm going to go over here. You do you, I'll do me. And then we'll get together when we want to. Well, y'all could have stayed unmarried to do that.
All problems, and what we figured out when we counsel people, are basically symptoms of one of these 5, these roots not really being addressed. It's like when we saying it, when marriage, as God designed it, we're not following God's design for marriage. That's when we see it get out of whack. it takes a turn, and you're like, wow. You might think it's easier for you, but is it actually really working? Is it actually really you imagine when you said I do?
Absolutely. Like, is that what you were thinking? Living in separate, I mean, I've seen couples that sleep in separate bedrooms, and sometimes they do that for medical reasons, because one person might have sleep apnea, or they have a disability or something where it's just more comfortable for them. But I think when you get to the point that you're living in two separate homes, there is a blaring red flag.
I think
that something is wrong.
It's a red flag, and don't give up on your marriage that easily. Don't just say, you know what, we're dropping out. We're just not gonna. We're not even talk about it. We're not gonna calibrate. We're not even gonna try to get this back in the road. And it's gonna be broke down. We're just gonna leave it on the side of the road, and we're gonna move on.
So I'm gonna bring up something, and I know we're getting long in time right now, but what you said before about your unwillingness or the belief that, we couldn't have this kind of marriage, like this was foreign to you. You thought this is just how people do. And see, that to me is also one of those things, I think, that if you had not checked it, some people don't decide to divorce, they just decide to disconnect. Yeah. And I feel like that's what happened. They disconnected. I'm not willing to deal with what's going on with me. Don't touch this. This is my pain. This is my issue. And if you touch it, I'm going to explode. So rather than me do that, I'll go over here. You stay over there. You pay these bills and those bills. And when we want to get together, we can make a decision to get together, to be physical, to be intimate. We might even go out, go on dates, go to the movies, but I don't want to spend my intimate day-to-day time with you. Wow. That's kind of scary. Yeah. And the flip side of that is staying in the house with someone and still not doing that. Like, what a waste of love. What a waste of time.
And that's why I think it's so important that was number 5, was to calibrate your marriage regularly. And calibration, what we're talking about is exactly what the word says, is we're actually trying to get back in line. What we said I do too, we're trying to get back in line with that. And if you follow these mandates, and that's basically what they are, they're from our book called The 5 Marriage Mandates. And we wrote this book just like if we had 5 counseling sessions with someone and counsel them on these 5 principles. And these 5 principles, man, they work. I'm trying to tell you, this book right here, you can get it. It's a link down below. It has a study guide to it. So if you want to share it with your church, or you just want to do it with you and your spouse, it has actually a study guide. It has questions in it. And it's a short read. You can see the thickness of the book is not that long, but it's power packed. And if you want to get this book, you follow the link below. I believe this book will help you. I'm not saying it as a selling ploy. Yeah. We would not have released this book if we didn't think it can help someone.
Man, this is my husband's passion, and I'm passionate about it too. But the way that these mandates transformed our life, our married life, our day-to-day life, like, we can truly, honestly say now that we are each other's best friend. If something happens, the first person I want to tell is him.
Exactly. If something happened, good or bad, funny, indifferent. It's like, I want to share.
Baby, guess what? Right? And so the more positive shared experiences we have together, the longer lasting our connection, the deeper our connection. So I can connect with him about emotional things, about physical things, about fun things, about intellectual things. And that is intimacy. That is the getting, that is the becoming one. That's it. Because no one can come in between us. Nothing another man can say to me. I don't care how much he compliments me. Even if my love language, if he's working, coming towards me with my love language, right? What is love language? Is words of affirmation, gifts of service, acts of service, rather.
Receiving gifts,
physical touch, definitely. Don't come with that. And then what's the other one? There's 5 of them. So what I'm saying is, even if he comes to me with that, I'm so engaged with him. I'm locked into him because he's the one who what's the word? Who cultivates my soil. He's the one who digs. Or you ever seen a garden? They dig around in the ground and they plant the flowers and they take that time. He has tended to this garden, and I'm tending to his garden.
Exactly. So look, we urge you to get this book. The 5 Marriage Mandates is a story about biblical principles to help anyone overcome any marital challenge. 5 Marriage Mandates, link down below. So, babe, I it's so much more we can say.
It is. I'm sorry, I got carried away.
But it's you know what? People get the book, they can read more about it.
Yeah.
But pray for the people, baby.
Yes, and before I pray, if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you want to talk to us, if you are struggling, if you feel like you want help, but maybe my spouse doesn't, there's still hope for you. This book is good for even if you're happy.
Yeah.
Even if you're happy in your marriage, it can help you increase, your intimacy. It can help you. Maybe you don't know about maybe you don't know how to label those things. Maybe you're strong in one area and not in another. It will help you even if you're happy. It will. And so we just want to encourage you, if you want to chat, that information is also going to be on this, what did you call it, baby? In the chat. The information is going to be in the chat, in the comments. Right.
Look for it. It's around here. It's around here somewhere.
Yeah. So, yes, let's just pray. Father, we just thank you. We thank you for your goodness, your grace, and your mercy. We thank you for your love and your kindness. We thank you, Father, for restoring us, Lord, and encouraging us to go and give back, to go and pay it forward and restore to another, God. We pray for everyone that is watching, either now live or that will watch in the years to come, that this information is available, that they will seek your face, that they will see, hear, understand, acknowledge, and implement these 5 mandates, these 5 principles, and that, Lord, you will reward them with the fruit thereof, because your word says that your word will not come back to you void. And if you have said that when 2 are joined together, let no man put asunder, and that the 2 shall become one when they cleave to one another, that they will be naked and unashamed, God, surely is true. And we thank you that marriage is your idea, and that it was created for your purpose, but it was also created to bless us. So God, would you bless them? Would you keep them? Make your face to shine upon them. Be gracious to them, oh God. Lift up your countenance towards them and give them peace. Keep them from all hurt, harm, danger, sickness, disease, virus, and every type of evil influence. And we thank you for this in all things, in Jesus' name. And we'll see you again here next time on Couples Pursuit Live.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for watching this episode of Couples Pursuit Live. If you enjoyed this video, here's another one we think you'll like.